first, heard of this whole topic, you know, space as an ocean and just looking at all of the different uh, information, the evidence of what's being said in this research, I was like, it's crazy. It's not, no way this stuff could be what they're saying it is. But after some time of research, begin to dig into the whole subject and pick it apart. And not pick it apart as far as in a bad way, but just really add to what's being said. And, it connected many dots in my own research, which is what I always tell you guys, if you're getting this information, if you're doing research, dots will connect automatically. When you start to see certain things, dots will connect for you guys. So for me, it's looking at this information and saying to myself, I don't know, it could possibly be something. But when it basically clicked for me is scrolling through the TV, looking for SportsCenter, and seeing on the guide that Stargate was on. So the beginning of Stargate is cool. After the beginning, it really goes downhill from there. But when you look at the beginning, when he's getting into all the information and adding everything up, that is real cool to watch, and it makes sense. Started to watch it, and remember, they find the Stargate in Egypt, and he's going through the symbols, and he basically see the hieroglyphic symbols, which he knew, but it was symbols that he didn't understand. They couldn't figure them out. And then eventually he figures them out, and he realizes that these are not hieroglyphs. These are actually star constellations that's on the device. So when they plug in the constellations, that they come up with a seven sequence, 7 depictions or what have you, to get the Stargate to open. Now, remember when he opens, get all 7 into the device and they open it, remember the Stargate, when it first opens, there's a big poof of water that comes out the Stargate. And that's when it hit me. And I was like, so much stuff just came rushing to my head, except for the physics of it all, which is the tough part. We won't get into that. But the water came rushing through the Stargate. And I was like, wow, it's crazy. It's right here in front of our faces the whole time. And we're overlooking it for obvious reasons. So you had that happen. And I just began to remember, the ancient Egyptians and looking at all the depictions of the waters of Noon. Talked about this when they give us the creation story of the ancient Egyptians. It's the waters of Noon. And they're telling us that everything came out of the primordial waters of Nu. And it's just something that we just didn't think about. So the primordial waters of Nu, how they were depicting it was space is like a liquid. But when you first get into it, as I told you guys, they were basically saying that it was like the oceans, because the ocean is the dark abyss. Space is supposed to be the dark abyss. Connecting the two was tough. Not perfect. I don't get everything right. But this one I just simply overlooked. And it's right in front of our face. But what they have shown us, many depictions, is them traveling through space on the solar bark or the solar boat. And it makes sense. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why would they depict space as them traveling and having to use a boat? Right? So it's like, wait a minute. I've seen this in a depiction before. And when we look at the depiction of the creation story, when we look at Newton Jeb and we see the solar boat traveling through the sky, and it's traveling, which that's supposed to be the sky, the arch, the blue arch, you see the stars. So it's telling you as if, wait a minute, space is a liquid. And that's how you have to travel, astral travel through the solar boat. That's a key we're going to get into in a second. The solar boat, why they call it that, it's going to make a lot of sense. So looking at that, and then just seeing what's coming up. So we had Avatar, The Way of Water. Then you had the Black Panther movie with the water people, this whole underwater civilization or what have you. Now we have the Little Mermaid. And I'm looking at all this and it's like, what is going on with all these water themes, movies that's coming up? Like, what is that? We'll touch on that later. But start putting the pieces together and just going through the research and looking at everything and seeing how all this stuff fits. And it fits so deeply when you start getting into it. Now, they took a lot of reliefs out of Kemet. And there's a lot of reliefs that I've seen that if we had the entire one would give us a better understanding of what they was trying to tell us as far as this solar travel. And it would make a lot more sense. So now we had the firmament, that whole story in the Bible. Remember, I showed you guys the Temple of Dendera in Egypt, where we have on the ceiling, you can look up and you see the waters of Nunes on the ceiling depicted, it's supposed to be the sky. And we see them traveling, as I said, on the boats in the sky. So clearly, the only place they could have got this depiction from is, or this understanding from, is from Kemet, where it's showing you exactly, what that is. So when we read in Genesis, it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Face of the deep. When we see face of the deep or the deep, that's always referring to oceans. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And it's just something I completely overlooked. Just your mind can't comprehend that it's talking about water and space. So it's as clear as day. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. What waters? Earth is not created yet. So what waters is it talking about? And God said, let there be light. And there was light. We're going to come back to this because that is important why light had to happen first. Matter of fact, we can explain it now. Let there be light. Now, remember, we have energy first, right? We have consciousness, then energy. Energy creates atoms. Atoms create the elements. Well, a certain amount of atoms create the elements, and different elements create, earth, matter, material. So before you can create the earth, before you have anything material, there needs to be light first. So when we see that, light meaning energy. So when we seen that, we thought, God saying, let there be light. And it's like, well, how can there be light before the sun is created? Even though it says, coming up, the evening and the morning was called the first day or what have you, you got to dawn is to be the beginning. It's another term or another way of saying the beginning. Night, the beginning, the end. Evening and the morning was the first day. The sun wasn't created yet. It's a big reason for this. We'll get into it. But let there be light, meaning there had to be energy first in order to produce the materials that are coming next. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Now remember, you go back to Genesis 2 and it's saying, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Darkness, what it's talking about. It says, the Spirit of God moved upon the water. That darkness is the water, space. It divided, separated the energy from space. What is basically what it's saying, taking it from outer space. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. I think that was just put there to confuse anyway. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. Again, and God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and gathered together the waters, called he seas, and God saw that it was good. So we've seen the depictions plenty of times in this whole firmament, which they say is a dome, dome that we can't see, this invisible dome. But the Bible says it's calling it heaven, which we just interpret heaven as being the sky or what have you. Now, many depictions that we see of this dome, which is why a lot of people believe in the flat earth theory, that the earth is flat and it's domed. We've seen many type of insinuations on this. The Simpsons movie with the dome. We've seen the whole TV show about the dome. It's been a lot of videos out there showing that, this place is a dome, with the Hunger Games, the false sky and everything like that. They're giving you a lot of hints as to what's going on. The problem with the whole thing is just space itself, as it's been shown to us. What is that? We look out at night and we clearly see space, but we're not realizing that we're looking at something that is as far as the eye can see, and what's up there, we don't understand what's past that. So at night, we see darkness, we see stars, but we got to understand that this stuff is inside of this firmament. So that would mean that the sun, the moon will be inside and not, whatever million miles away that's, outside of this whole firmament. And this firmament, which we just don't know what it is, or the composition of it, or the physics of it, or even if the sun and the moon could be outside and somehow penetrates or somehow comes through, which it's deep, because we got to understand how light works. But that's something we get into in a second. This is a lot. But you look at the depictions and you'll see that the sun and moon is inside of the firmament. And so that would mean the way it's described in the Bible and the way they show us the depictions in Egypt is outside of that is water. So that's like, I don't understand it. It don't make sense, but that's what it's given us, and so much to back it up now when you start to look. So it says here, space is an ocean. Space is an ocean, and I'm not speaking metaphorically. Ocean defines both the entire body of salt water that covers approximately 72% of the Earth's surface and any great expanse. Early civilizations believed that the oceans and the stars above were linked inexorably. In the age of exploration, the ocean represented the ultimate unknown, whose guideposts were the heavens. Earlier in this century, science fiction writers, or prophets of the medium, referred to the cosmos as ocean space, whose conquest would inevitably be done by space ships. What travels on water? Ships. Gene Roddenberry, creator of the television series Star Trek, was right on the money when he made the Starship Enterprise a naval vessel. I was in the Navy 6 years. It's called the USS Enterprise, which there isn't actually a USS Enterprise, real aircraft carrier and naval ship. And ships are called the USS. He did that understanding what's going on, understanding what space is. It's just something we overlooked. And it's something that the Egyptians were showing us about boats being in space, which is a metaphor, obviously. For Americans about to enter the next millennium, the coming age of space will be an era of exploitation as well as exploration. And the nation requires a philosophical approach to the use, exploration, and, if need be, defense of space that is best suited for the ocean-like cosmic environment. That philosophy is inherently naval in tone and tradition. So we look at the many hints that they give us. And, one of the hints that, like I said, every movie started rushing back. And if you remember Pirates of the Caribbean, remember they're showing you them on the ship. And it's the movie Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And, everybody thought, water would just fall off the earth. The earth was flat and get to the edge, you fall off. But remember, they're showing you the ship and they're showing you the stars in the background space. It's giving you that hint. And then they eventually fall off and go into the ocean. It's another scene where they're running back and forth across the boat to try to flip the boat upside down, giving you another hint of what this could possibly be. The sun sets and then, the waters recede upside down and they're right side up. And it's a lot with that, the symbolism with the sun, which I'll get into in a second. So now we've seen the video. Many of you have seen the video of Bill Nye talking about Earth is a closed system. What does that mean? We're going to get into that. Take a look at this video and then this exploration of Earth as a closed system. So what is it saying? What does that mean, basically? So understand, one, if it's a closed system, no material can get through it. That's what it's trying to break down. So what is being said, and it's kind of confusing, is outside of this, where the so-called space station is, zero gravity. So the whole explanation of gravity is, well, for space is it's zero gravity, and that's how the planets are able to float, because in zero gravity, things float. They go up in the space station, they're supposed to be floating around in there. So now I'm saying Earth as this closed system. Energy can't be created or destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. That's a big hint right there. And to get matter through there, there's only one form it can be. And that's what it's trying to tell you. It has to take on an energetic form. So you will have to break down the material into energetic or light form in order for it to travel through the firmament. That's what it's saying. So you think about it, and liquid is a conductor, right? It's the best way to, if you want to send electricity to another place, water would be the best way to do it, because it will basically amplify the speed and the rate at which the energy, the electricity can travel. So it would make more sense that if out there is water, then the way you would want to travel would be energy or light, because it would travel much faster. And that gives you the whole hint when you look at Stargate. Remember, when it goes through the Stargate, turns into light. So the physical matter turns into light, and then it travels. Same thing with Star Trek. Remember, Gene Roddenberry gave us the hint when he said USS Enterprise is a ship, but the best way to travel would be in light form. Remember, Star Trek, you guys all seen it. They get on the pad and he says, energize. What happens? They energize. They turn from solid matter into light, and then they travel to a different part in space. The ship as well. When the ship hits light speed, traveling, warp speed, traveling through space, the Enterprise, we've seen this a lot. Even Star Wars, even when they travel, it's light speed, quick, because it's giving you that hint that in order to travel, you would need to be in light speed, which would make more sense anyway, because it would be faster if you're in a big, giant, slow ship that can't travel at the speed of light. And if, the universe is infinite, it would take you forever to get, to planet to planet. And in my earlier videos, we talked about the ancient Egyptians talking about being able to travel, astral travel, leave the body and travel through the star system, travel to Andromeda, travel to Orion, or what have you. And that's how they talked about being able to travel. It's the astral travel, to leave the body in that energetic form, because that was the only way. The depictions of them on the boat is what they're giving us. But how to, transmutate the physical form to energetic, the only way we know how to do it is to die. It's the only way you can leave. So it's fitting that, they saying that you travel deep enough that you're in space. We can't breathe underwater. I mean, when you think about the perfection that is us and how we were made in such a perfect form with this brain and consciousness or what have you, for the earth to be, 70% water and us not be able to breathe under it, you got to think about that. Why not give us that ability? Then it's, you look at the body. Without water, we die. The talked about this before, the 5 humors that the body is made up of, or that keeps the body running, phlegm, yellow phlegm, and black bile, or what have you. It's liquids, our blood liquids, the things that keep us going and our body flowing, all liquid form. We got to look at that. Sperm, a liquid. We got to look at, we come through your mother's water sac, while water breaks when she gives birth, and you're in a water sac if you come out that way. But that's what bursts first from water, when you're being born. So it's a lot to look at when we look at this water example of the universe and everything that they've been trying to tell us and what's in front of our face, of how water is the most important thing that's going on right now. I showed you guys the videos before of how, you had the experiment with water and how it absorbs energy. You say something negative, it comes out in a ugly shape. You say something positive, it comes out in a beautiful shape. And how, water is just the key to everything. Water heals. And it's something we took for granted, and we don't understand how much they're polluting it. They're polluting the rainwater. They're polluting the water that we drink because they understand the key of water and how big water is to the survival of us and our energy. So if our bodies are indeed 45 to 75% water, then you will want to affect the water, plain and simple, to affect us. And again, it's one of the things you got to look at and just see, like, how water is important to us as humans, and how it would make more sense that, it's everything. It's a lot of videos out there surfacing about, how much we rely on water, how much water does, but we never really put it into perspective. So what does this say about all of the so-called UFO sightings and everything that we've been seeing over the years? Is that it's those UFOs coming from the ocean because there's something else down there? We got to look at all the movies where we've seen, UFOs on the water. And just, it's a lot to really take in and think about when you think about that. Because again, in order for you to travel through that firmament, according to the information, you would have to be in light form. But we have also seen the so-called UFOs in light form, in those orbs of light. To me, that would make more sense as being the UFOs versus any ships that's coming, that we see in the sky, what have you. If that's the case, then that would be ships that's already on this planet and not coming from out there. That would make more sense looking at all this information. But we've seen these energetic beings. We've seen in the movies them describing aliens as Nephilim. I talked about this in one of the videos where it's a movie, I forget what it's called, but Cuba Gooding Jr., here it is. And she's saying that they are Nephilim, these so-called aliens, and they could be here. But according to the information, in order to travel, you would have to be in light form to get through that firmament. Is that something that can change? We don't know. So I was talking about Earth as this closed system, closed to material. Only thing that can get through is energy. Makes so much sense. So when I was talking about the ancients doing all the sacrificing, and that's something, again, you would have to think about. And something that kind of stood out to me, because you would think it would be a way if they were in communication and able to talk to and see these aliens coming down, because it talked about all these ancient civilizations speaking of aliens coming down, beings coming down. And remember, when they stopped coming, they disappeared or what have you. They was having the sacrifices to get people to, see them or get a message to them and get them to come back. And as I said, the only way you can get to them is in the spiritual form. And they knew that. So that's why they was killing people and having the sacrifices, because they knew the only way to get to them was in the energetic form.